Django Social Auth is a Django application that you can download, and it has kind of become the de facto standard library that you go to whenever you want to connect to third-party applications such as GitHub, Facebook, Flickr, standard OAuth 2, just about anything. There's even browser ID support. The library supports a lot of different websites that you can use to authenticate against and pull back information. I think the two biggest ones that I see it used for is GitHub and Facebook. And it's actually relatively easy to install and get going with and getting started with. So that's exactly what we're going to do today, is just get started with it. The first thing that you need to do is you need to get your credentials, your API secret key, and an ID for your app from whatever website you're going to use. Specifically, we're going to use GitHub in this video, but this works for most everything else as well. I've specifically used Django Social Auth for GitHub and Facebook, and it worked just the same. So let's go ahead and get started. You need to be sure that Django Social Auth is installed. Just use pip to install it. I already have it installed, so we don't really need to worry about dependencies on my end, but if you'll just look through there real quick, you'll see what it depends on. The first place to start with Django Social Auth is to edit the settings file, and that's actually where you'll do most of your setup. There we go, that was easy. Next thing we need to do is set our authentication backends and our template context processors. I'm just going to paste these in because it would be a lot of typing that you don't need to see. On the first line, we have the social auth backend for GitHub, and then we also have the model backend for built into Django so that we can use our user object. The next step is we need our template context processors, and I'll just paste that in too. And first we have our built-in Django auth context processor, and we have our specific social auth context processors that we can use in our templates. This is just standard stuff, and you can literally copy and paste this from the README in the Django social auth project. Next we have some specific settings to set. In this setting, you would set all of the backends that you want to use, and you would also need to add those to your other authentication backends. So if you want to allow logging in with Twitter, GitHub, and Facebook, you would actually add in here GitHub, Twitter, and Facebook. That way, Django Social Auth knows to use those as well. I'll be honest, I don't know what this does exactly. I think it sets the new user if a username isn't provided as new social auth user. It's just the documentation recommends to set it, and I've never actually seen what it does. The next two settings we're going to set are the GitHub app ID and the GitHub API secret. You'll have these for every service that you want to use, whether it's Facebook, Flickr, OAuth. Most services that you'll use with Django Social Auth, you'll have to set these for that particular backend. So again, if you want to do Twitter, GitHub, and Facebook, you would have Twitter app ID, a Facebook app ID, and a GitHub app ID. And the same thing with the API secret key. And you would have to set all of them in your settings file. We're just going to go with GitHub. For my app ID and my API secret, I've set those to environment variables. And I set localhost to a test app, and I set my production environment variables to the actual full login app. We only have 3 more settings to go, and these are actually authentication specific in Django. We are setting our login redirect URL so that whenever you log in, it'll redirect you to the /private. And I've actually gone ahead and set that up to where you have to be authenticated to see that page. And we're just setting our login error URL. These last three aren't specifically required to set. This is just common what I use, and except for the redirect URL, which I usually set to a dashboard of some sort. Other than that, these are some of the common URLs that I go ahead and set, and I decided to go ahead and show you those today. So now that we have our settings done, let's go work on our URLs. This is actually really easy to do and only a few lines to write. Now we want to add the meat of our social auth. And that is all the social auth URLs that our app requires and needs to use. And in all honesty, for the most part, we could just stop here. But since we went ahead and set our login to something specific, we want to go ahead and make a new URL so that login actually works. Alright, what this line does is our login URL, our /login URL that we go to will redirect us to login/GitHub. This is actually really important. For every service that you're going to use, the login/GitHub or login/Facebook or login/Flickr is what you're going to go to for our application to know which service to actually use, and it's the URL that you're going to hit. So we wanted a more generic login, so we're just having it redirect to the login GitHub. It's not strictly required, it just makes things a little prettier. Finally, we just need to edit our template a little bit. I'm not going to do really anything major. I'm just going to basically add it so that we can log in with GitHub. And there we go. We're ready to go ahead and click on the login with GitHub button in our application. Actually, I kind of lied on our last step before we can actually start doing it. Next, we need to do a syncdb so that we can make our changes to the database that are needed. There we go. We've run our script and created the tables that we need to. Now let's run it. There we go. Let's click to log in with GitHub. Let's go into GitHub and we want to allow it. It's going to log in, and next we're going to need to do a redirect, and now we're at our private URL. So we've successfully logged in with GitHub. No, this is still back up there. It's because we didn't do any code to make it go away if the user was authenticated. Also note the welcome buddy Lindsay. This is my GitHub username, so it actually pulled in my username and stored it into the database for the user. And that wraps up our Django social auth video. Thank you for watching. Please visit our website at GoDjango.com and subscribe to our RSS feed. Also, please feel free to like us on Facebook and get involved in the conversation there, or you can even start one. Feel free to comment, leave suggestions, anything you want. I'm open to ideas. Thank you again, and have a great day.